Well, thank you, Jennifer. This is Art Viewing Adventures. I'm Rodney Paul, and I'm joined by my good friend Nick Despota.
Hello.
How are you today, Nick?
I'm doing really well. I'm happy to see a couple of old friends, Steve and Alan Steinheimer, who I haven't heard from in a couple of years, but thanks for joining, Alan.
Yeah, welcome to them. And you're going to be talking to us about your experiences in Colombia,
That's right.
in the amazing art there. And then I think you've got like a whole presentation, but then we will maybe stop from time to time and take questions. Is that how we want to do this, Nick?
Sure. In fact, there's a number of segments and ideas. If at any point someone wants to add something or question something, we have enough time to have a little conversation. If it gets a little long, I will let you know that we need to move on so that we make sure to finish the program before the time's up.
Great. Sounds good. Well, take it away, Nick.
Okay, let me get my program here. Boom. Okay, so this is a series of pictures I made while I was traveling in Colombia last when was it? February, and my time there raised some questions, and I organized those questions into three groups, three themes: belief, community, and representation, how we represent the world to one another. Today, we're only going to do the first one, belief, because we have to fit it in within the time frame. Now, as you all understand, Europeans arrived in Colombia probably around 1520, and they really transformed the nature of belief systems in not just Colombia, in all countries, what are now countries, when then they weren't countries, of Latin America. These are the cities I visited. In the upper left-hand corner, you have Medellin, which is a very large city. Let's see, its population is about 2.5 million. And below that, to the right, you have Bogota, which is even bigger. It has 11.5 million. So it's bigger than New York City. It's bigger than Los Angeles. I also visited three smaller, well, very small town, Barichara, next to Medellin, colonial town. And then in the lower left, Popoyan and San Agustin. San Agustin is also a very old and small town. What I want you to notice is that these are all in very mountainous regions. The land to the right is very flat, but the cities are clustered in very high territories. In fact, Bogota is about 9,000 feet. Compare that to Denver at about 5,700 feet above sea level. So this is the way we got around. Driving and taking a bus and trains was not really practical if you want to visit a number of places quickly. And these planes are a very popular way for students and business people and tourists to travel. This plane held about 15 people. I took maybe four or five interior flights. So I'm going to review a little bit of history for you. It took about 200 years for Catholicism to overwhelm religions in the core areas of Colombia. You may have seen pictures like this. Have any of you seen pictures of a Catholic priest, a nun, and a group of indigenous children?
Mm,
No?
not really, not me.
Yeah.
No.
I've seen pictures like this in the Southwest of the United States, in the Dakotas, and they're pictures of priests and Native Americans. And there was a really strong impulse to convert the indigenous people to Catholicism. It's said that under the power of the sword and the cross, Spain overtook the Americas. But the interesting thing is that Catholicism did not replace indigenous belief. After all, beliefs have been in these areas for 15,000 to 20,000 years. 200 years of Catholicism, this is going to suddenly wipe that out. It did not. In fact, what happened is that the two belief systems, and we'll talk about what I mean by that in a moment, blended. They blended together into hybrid systems, and that's known as syncretism. Now, here's a young woman that was one of my guides in Popayan, a city in the south, and she was showing me the costumes, the vestments that are worn during Holy Week in Popayan. Huge celebration, lots of people walking in the streets, and here is that vestment. This is Popayan is like a center of Catholicism in this part of the country. I asked, let's see, what was her name? Patricia. I asked her if she feels a connection between her Catholic beliefs, because she was very Catholic, very much involved in the church, and her Indian heritage. And she said she didn't. And she pointed to something. I asked her to point to anything that she thought was evidence of a connection between her Indigenous heritage and her Catholicism, but she couldn't. And she told me what her grandmother says. Her grandmother said she has no connection to her Indigenous heritage. And I kind of wondered, that struck me. I wondered if her grandmother is like a fish that's unaware of the ocean in which it's swimming. There are two people in Popayan, and you see a sculpture in the background that was made about 600 AD, about a little after the time of Christ. Does this kind of look resonate with any of you? Have you ever seen any sculpture like this?
Maybe Pacific Islands, like the Eastern Islands, and places like that.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
also Northwest. Doesn't it kind of seem reminiscent of some Northwest native?
Totems, yeah,
Yeah.
Kwakiutl. Um, when you make something out of stone, the extensions like arms, for example, or a neck, um, aren't really possible. It's too brittle. So when sculptures are made of stones, they tend to be very compact. And here you see the arms tucked in close to the body. The space between the legs is just indicated in relief, but there's no cut through there. There is no neck. So we'll see more of that. But let's go back to the beliefs. I looked for what were common features of indigenous belief systems in Meso and South America. And with the help of the internet, I found five that most anthropologists agree you can find in many, many different societies before the arrival of Europeans. One is cyclic time. Another one is called animism, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. Another one is the possibility for transformations between animals and humans, or humans and animals back and forth. Creation myths often cover that kind of transformation. Another one is ancestor veneration. If anyone saw the Pixar movie Coco, did any of you see Coco?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about a young boy trying to connect with his heritage of a great guitarist. And the belief they conveyed there is as soon as or whenever the memory of an ancestor is forgotten, people stop remembering who that person was, that ancestor basically dissolves and disappears. So they try not to let that happen. In shamanism, so we'll talk about each of those. First of all, cyclic time. In Western cultures, like where we live today, time is like progressive. Today is better than yesterday in some form, and tomorrow will be better than today. So we see progress in the course of historical events. So here in the center, would somebody describe for me what we see in the center panel or any of the panels?
Well, we see like some kind of the center panel shows some industry with some kind of like metal towers, and then people working really, really hard, possibly slaves. And
Mhm.
and then there's a woman kind of overlooking them all. And then at the bottom panel, we see like so we see airplanes and people with maybe uniforms, something
Mhm.
like that. So I guess the question is what, like, do you read this from top to bottom?
You could read it from top to bottom or left to right or right to left. The,
Hmm.
the side panels tell a little different story. For example, the one on the left, foremost in the picture is a woman sewing. She's got a table, but behind her, we see mechanized spinning, uh, a mill where cotton is being produced. And you see the machinery that drives the mill. And on the right, on the lower right, we have a very traditional family. It looks like a priest, perhaps, perhaps a mother and child. You can't tell. Just above her, we have a woman ironing. So these are pictures that give a sense of the home and work that's done in the home. And then as we move forward, there's a sense of transformation that work that's done in the home will become easier and more automated with time.
What's also kind of interesting is that there's clear hierarchies of people. There's the innovators, the smart people, and then the laborers. That's also kind of an interesting understanding. I don't
Yeah,
know that.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, we see hierarchy. We see a sense that there are people who sort of control the course of industry and people who are working in the home, holding the family together. Let's contrast that with this. Let me find my button here. Oh, that's a close-up. I wish we had talked about this. I should have advanced the slide because we have a little more detail here. Give you another chance to look at it.
Yeah, it's just also just kind of interesting to think that there are the movement through this linear movement through time is guided by certain types of people. The industrialists or the inventors or whatever, and that the vast majority of people is just drawn along by these smart leaders.
That's right. It's very, very hierarchical in the sense that technology and education lead the way. I just noticed now that there, right behind the airplane propeller in the lower center, is a man. Perhaps he's in a hospital. Um, I'm not sure. Anyway, this is called the Triptych of Work. It was done in '38 by a Colombian artist called Pedro Nel Gomez, and it's in Medellin. Very prominent mural. Now here's another mural, and this one represents a totally different conception of time. I'll read the text, and as I'm reading it, just roll your eyes across the whole frame and note the details, what you're seeing. Many indigenous cultures believe that the world has been destroyed and created many times. Death, regeneration, reincarnation are the principles of nature: death, regeneration, and reincarnation. So, will someone call out things that they're seeing in this picture, in this mural?
I see this eye, kind of an eye in the middle of it, looking out at us. This single eye.
Mm-hmm.
The snake that becomes a river that becomes a snake. I think this is kind of
Mm.
interesting. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
rivers usually imply movement towards something rather than cyclical, but that's interesting.
What else are people seeing?
The plants, certainly, flowering plants that certainly come and go through time.
I think that blue figure on the left with the hand out, in the face looking straight up, I think that's a very intriguing kind of, I'm not sure what kind of creature it is.
Or a volcano, maybe.
Oh, it does seem like a volcano, doesn't it?
It does seem like a volcano. Volcano
Mhm.
is certainly a regenerative force. It completely reorganizes the land and where water flows and where soil accumulates. And on the right, opposite the volcano, at the same level, we have a house. And that figure seems to be, I know from the title, which is La Casa en Llamas, the house in flames, that this figure is burning. There's fire. So we have a volcano and we have fire. And in the lower third of the mural, we have figures that are collapsed, and they seem to be decomposing, perhaps. We see parts of hands and a chicken's head, and things are being reclaimed. This is my reading of it. You can make your own interpretation. Things seem to be reclaimed by the ground, by the earth.
Hmm.
Even as the river flows through the land, and the river and the snake, in a lot of South American cultures, snake is is a symbol of life and regeneration. Snakes molt, they change their skin. So that change is that the snake manifest is really part of the story here of change. The eye, what is that eye? There's some kind of central power or guidance that's overlooking everything. It's coming out of what looks like a datura flower.
Hmm.
Datura is a poison, isn't it? But it could be another kind of flower. I don't know.
It's got a tear coming out of it too.
It does, and the tear is falling into the water.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's go on. So the difference in time, the sense of time is so different here that there's this cycle of things burning, being recreated, changing. There's a flow of life. There's a centrality. No one mentioned corn. I will. It's right in the middle of the canvas. And there's even a little airplane flying over the field. Let's move on. So animism. So the idea of animism is that all things are animate, including inanimate things like the sun and the moon and the clouds. I don't know whether this man is looking at the church or an impending storm. He's looking at the clouds as well as the church. Plants, rocks, rivers, they all possess a spiritual essence or soul. They're all sentient. They can sense what's going on around them. They're just not inanimate objects, they're just not stone. And they're all interconnected. Another aspect of animism is that animals, here we have a picture of an animal rights campaign in Bogota. And a lot of young people here, they handed me a flyer, and the flyer says they want to prohibit the sale of animals behind shop windows. And in Caracas and Bogota, they say animals are not merchandise. They're sentient creatures. They want to create veterinary hospitals in Bogota. They want to prohibit the use of, let's see, the use of pulvera in Bogota. I'm sure I translated this somewhere, but it isn't before me right now. Does anyone speak Spanish?
What's the word? Pobra?
Pulvera. To prohibit the use of pulvera in Bogota. Previously,
Paco, I think you're talking, but you're muted.
Yeah, you
There you
don't hear my voice, but I'm quiet.
go.
This is so moving once again, folks.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Provora.
uh,
P-O-V-O-R-A?
yep,
Mhm.
pulvera. Well, I don't want to take too much time on that, but I want to convey the idea. And if Rodney or anyone wants to look this
I
up
mean,
and
gunpowder. Pulvora.
gunpowder. Okay. So I see. It's like the 4th of July concerns for the way pets are freaked out by all the explosions. So
That's
prohibit the
terrible.
use of gunpowder, fireworks in public. Thank you, Rodney. And concern yourself with the well-being of domestic animals and wild animals. This is a connection to animism, this extra concern for the life of animals. And there's also, now we're still talking about characteristics of indigenous belief, this sense of the capacity for animals and humans to transform into one another. What we're seeing on the right here is a small cup that is, or container, that is in the shape of a snake or a person who's a basket carrier. and the his arms or her arms are snakes. And the snakes are wrapped around the supports of the basket. And the head could be, I don't know, a frog or some kind of reptile. Um, there are a lot of stories across the Americas about the creation of human society from animals. I have a picture of a raven in my living room with babies in the raven's belly because that's part of their mythology that ravens created the earth. I saw a lot of this human animal hybrid. This is all from one town. This is in Popoyan. Um, this one is very quickly painted on the street. Another was on a utility pole. You see the animal face and the human face side by side, one turning into the other. Curiously, I saw this in San Francisco. Some of you may
Yes.
know. So
I know in Golden Gate Park.
that's it. So this belief that animals and humans can inhabit one another's bodies is not limited to people who lived 2,000 years ago. It's still a human dream of modern people. Ancestor veneration. I mentioned this earlier. The dead require care and ritual attention, and if you don't pay attention to them, they can cause harm. Here we have the excavation, went to the year 1940 to 50, of a huge sculpture from San Agustin, that small town in the south. And when these sculptures were first discovered, they were unearthed and then assembled in an archaeological park where they're now protected. This is in another town. This is in Barichara. This young man wanted to show me the cemetery. And what's so interesting about the cemetery is the attention to the gravestones. Here, this is a gravestone for a man who was a sculptor. In a sense, he's carving his own gravestone. And here's another one. Any thoughts about what the person who died here, what his profession was?
Oh, an archaeologist.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
He's got like the trowel and it's a measuring tape.
Measuring tape, trowel,
So it could be a
straight.
construction person, but
Mhm.
oh, and yeah, there's a level.
A level. I'm thinking he was a
Carpenter.
mason, a bricklayer,
Yeah.
or a builder, you know. But what's interesting is that long list of names of his relatives, his sons, his friends, his cousins, who contributed to the manufacturing, to the fabrication of this very expensive gravestone. This is the opposite of neglect. This is lavishing attention on the life of a person who has died. And
I love that your gravestone could be itself a work of art. Ours usually are very uninteresting.
that's right. I love the fact that they have plastic flowers here, kind of a contemporary suggestion of immortality.
Yes.
Okay, I better move on. I'm concerned about the time.
Oh, please.
Shamans, they mediate between humans and the supernatural world. We have shamans in our world today. We call them priests and rabbis. We are people whose profession is to make a link between a spiritual world and the everyday world of life. And do you see, certainly a connection between the first mural we looked at and this one, the central eye, the river flowing into life. A lot less care and attention went into this. This was in a university building in Popayan. But we see this a lot I saw it a lot in Colombia, these depictions of shaman who, on the sides of buildings, in the stairwells of universities, and so forth. It's as common as the a man on a horse, a Marlboro, symbol of independence and self-sufficiency in in the American West.
Yeah, I quite like that mural.
You know, um, going on to belief, I wanted to say something about these particular plants in this location. We're at about 9,000 feet, very, very high up, going over a mountain. And this is really a plateau at the very at the tops of mountains. These are called frajones, these plants, frajones, and they are protected by environmental law. And the reason they are protected is because they absorb moisture, water from the air. They store it in their own bodies, and then they release the water through their roots. This is a very important natural process because when you get close to the equator, there's not a lot of snow in the mountains, unlike the Sierras. So you can't depend on snowmelt to replenish the streams and the reservoirs. So these plants serve an important purpose um, uh, in irrigating the land at lower elevations. Unfortunately, they're being threatened by farming, by industrial agriculture. This is my driver. His name is Roberto. In every place I had a different driver, but this little white line here between Popoyan and San Agustin in the lower left of the map is where Roberto drove me. It took about 5 hours on a very bumpy road, and he wanted to stop at the Valley of Rayones because he wanted to show me, he wanted to tell me this story. Here's some close-ups of it. And to show me that in the Valley of Rayones, this is a protected area, and these are his words. It teaches us to care for Mother Earth, and it teaches us to care for life. And by so doing, we safeguard our futures across time and space. So in the upper left here, we have a symbol of the Ministry of the Environment and Sustainability. And what's striking about this isn't the message. We've heard this kind of message right now. We hear it a lot, but that it should be presented by a taxi driver.
Mm-hmm.
That more or less, I don't want to say common because that's kind of diminishes his importance, but a person without a lot of university education or connection to higher levels of learning should understand this and want to show it to me.
Mm-hmm.
This, I wanted to kind of give some support to this because I cannot build a premise on the basis of one taxi driver. And the premise is about the concern for environmental protection. So I looked at data that showed Colombia's support for enacting strict climate protection policies. And here's a chart from the European Investment Bank. This was done based on a survey in 2023. So these are percentages of population in Peru, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and you see a very high level of support for strict environmental policy. Compared to the United States down there, these countries are like 25% higher public support. And these are developing countries. These are not big industrial developed countries like the United States. So I'm very impressed by that. And I think there is a nexus, a kind of interlocking of animism and shamanism and care for the dead. All of these indigenous beliefs somehow entwine together to create an ethic of environmental protection that we see across all of these countries. Maybe it's because farming, agriculture is such an important part of many people's livelihoods, much more so than the United States. And we all know farmers appreciate climate issues and threats to climate perhaps better than anyone else. This was also this is another approach to the same idea. So what percentage of people say the Earth is getting warmer based on their ethnicity? And what we see is, I highlighted in yellow, Hispanic Catholics have a significantly higher proportion of people will say, 77% of people will say, yes, human activity does indeed affect the climate. And we see that by religion, religious affiliation, as well as by race and ethnicity. This is rather old data. This is 2015, but I have no reason to believe it isn't true today. Here is some graffiti I saw in Popayan. It says no glyphosate spraying. Very common to have these expressions. Also, Yankee Go Home still appears in a lot of places, but it's very common to have these expressions of protect the environment. Also very common are motorcycles. Motorcycle ownership is about 60 to 70% in the smaller cities and towns. 30 to 40% are automobiles. It's much cheaper to own to get around on a motorcycle, of course, than in a car. In the
Probably,
cities, cars are much more common. Go
it's
ahead.
probably faster too, since you can go around traffic.
Yeah, yeah. Along with that, there's a higher mortality because people, and although they have helmet laws, most people aren't wearing helmets. So you have
Are
that.
there are there scooters? Looks like there's not just motorcycles. Looks like it's a scooter in the foreground on the lower right. Is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't see so many scooters.
Hmm.
I did talk about this with Roberto, and I suggested that it'll be much quieter in the towns when these gasoline motorcycles are replaced by electric ones. And he
Yeah,
agreed. Can't
yeah.
wait. Because the
Hmm.
towns are very, very noisy on the downside. On the upside, you're out in the open and people see one another and they wave to their neighbors and they carry their children on the back. And I saw one couple, the woman in the back of the seat was carrying this huge 36-inch wide flat screen TV.
Okay.
I wasn't quick enough to get a picture, but it was pretty humorous.
And it's not a lot of flat, right? There's a lot of hills, so you do need something with a motor.
That's right. That's right. Okay. The picture in the upper left, I think I pulled it out from my original set because I was concerned about time. But here we have a man stepping out of the biggest church, Catholic church in Popayan, and on his left is a reproduction of one of those statues from what was a tomb guardian, as they're called, from San Agustin, just 20 miles away.
Hmm.
And what's interesting here is that if you look at the statue on the left, the very tip of the man's penis has been chipped off. And I don't know whether that's a sign of hostility or uh,
Circumcision, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Prudishness. Yeah.
prudishness. Yeah, no, the Latin Americans aren't too prudish, I have to say.
Uh-huh.
But I thought it was
So
humorous.
Sarah is asking, was it difficult to acclimate to the altitude?
No, it was not, but uh, all I did was to walk. On one occasion, it was a long hike through a rocky trail. It was high altitude, and the young man, the guy who was showing me the cemetery stuff, just hopped along like a gazelle, and I was asking him to slow down, please, slow down, please. It was a 3 mile hike, and I really felt the altitude that day.
So I'm kind of curious. The you showed that plant that absorbs moisture out of the air and deposits in the soil. Um, is seems like a lot of the Andes, by comparison with North American mountains, the tree cover is much less. Is that what you experienced? That there wasn't the huge forests that we.
That's a good point, Steve. Let's look at that picture again. Well, here we're seeing vegetation, but not necessarily trees in the background.
Yeah,
In the foreground, in the middle ground, they're not trees. Again, we're at 9,000 feet. I wouldn't, this is well above the tree line.
yeah, but you'd think. I mean, this is even well above in California. This is well above the bush line or the grass line.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
everything is 9,000 feet around here is granitic and lodgepole pines maybe at best. But the trees, actually do play an important role in keeping moisture in the ground
yeah,
by shading. But
yeah.
maybe it's a different ecosystem there, I'm sure. So it's just a different, but it's probably not because they've been logged. But I don't know what the history is about that, but it's probably just a different ecosystem.
One thing about this particular area, I don't have a picture here I could show you. It's in the other group, but in these kinds of uh, look at the mountains in the background, and then just above the horizon, the deep green horizon, there's a lot of coffee growing at high altitudes.
Mm.
Coffee growing it isn't like a monocrop that in which you can run a tractor and cultivators across a big swath of soil. It's very much it's very hands-on. The coffee beans have to be picked, they're cultivated one at a time, the plants are cultivated. People die pretty frequently because the coffee plantations are on pretty steep slopes. And we were in areas which I couldn't believe that growers climb around these plants and do their cultivation, without suffering a lot of bad falls because it is at high elevation.
Mhm, mhm. So I've got a thought. You mentioned shamanism, animism, cyclical time. Did you encounter any difference in degrees of materialism?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Steve. Um, yeah, definitely the average income is much lower. So I wouldn't call it poverty because the people I met don't seem poor by their
Mhm,
standards. They have enough. They probably aren't the avid consumers we've been trained to be here in the United States. Um, but they have a lot less. They
mhm,
have fewer changes of clothes. They may wear the same pair of shoes for 3 years. I mentioned the cars. They'll use a motorcycle instead of a car, even though in some cases it would be much easier if they had a car, but they might rent a friend's truck or borrow a truck to bring materials to the to the home site. Yeah, I don't
mhm.
think they're as materialistic, nor in Mexico as we are in the US.
Well, in the US, I think the materialism is connected a lot with our hierarchical. I mean, there have been a lot of recent articles about how America is probably one of the most class-ridden societies on earth, probably only second to India, and maybe Nazi Germany was super class-ridden, but and the biggest biggest reason I think we consume is to display where we are in the hierarchy. And maybe there's just a difference in some of these Latin American countries, and that the that dynamic just isn't maybe at work to the same degree, but I don't know.
I think so. You could see that in the age of the cars and who owns cars. Cars are, they're status symbols. They show to others our place in society, how new they are, what type they are, and so on.
Mhm.
One thing about the social structures in a lot of well, I shouldn't say that. I've only been in a few towns in Mexico and Colombia, so I don't want to overgeneralize. But what I have seen is that people gather together in public squares in the evenings much more often. They gather together to hear music, to dance, to exchange stories, to enjoy one another's company after school or after work. The public squares, especially in the smaller cities like Popayan, are really hubs of social exchange, and they generate a feeling that we're all in it together. And they're not all wealthy people. There's a mix. You see a mix of working class people who are impoverished and professional class. They all. This is the common ground in which people meet, and I wish we had more of that in the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
So it
I'm going
seems like a lot of the art you found, Nick, was public art. You found murals. Is that the case, or did you go to a lot of museums also?
I did go to a lot of museums, and in this set of slides, I focused on beliefs. So I wanted to take pictures that were outside of museums. In the other parts, I have more museum pictures. The other thing is that I organized this with a company that starts out by asking you, what do you want to see? How much do you want to spend? And how long do you want to stay? So on the first one, I said I want to see art, archaeology, and public art, murals. So they put together an itinerary for me that would bring me to towns where there was a lot of, where the artisans were very active. And Barichara was an example. I stayed for 2.5 weeks, and the cost was about $4,200 without airfare. That is international airfare, but that 4,200 covered all the hotels, all the meals, all the guides. Um, so you know, it, wa- it was a kind of a personally tailored tour.
Are there places in the Bay Area or in the United States where you can find Colombian art that you would recommend?
Ah, good question. I'm sure there are, but nothing comes to mind quickly. Uh, Certainly, there are museums of Latin American art. But I wasn't prepared to answer that, but I'm sure there are.
Yeah, 'cause I would love to find that.
And
It's a
there's
shame that we
also
don't have our Mexican museum opening, but it seems like that's not happening.
there's Balmy Alley in San Francisco.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of mural art there.
So actually, let's talk about that. Like, so murals, do you think there's a big influence from the Mexican muralists on the Colombians? Because did seem like there was some kind of Diego Rivera influence on that one you showed us with all the industry
Yeah, absolutely. It really did look like Pan American.
unity. Yeah.
What is the title of the Diego Rivera
Pan American Unity is,
Unity? Yeah.
although his he has other murals that have similar, the one he did at the Detroit Institute of Art, for example, has a lot of those same themes.
I would say that the first of all, the answer is yes. And secondly, the influence is not so much stylistic, although it's there, as it is content. What is a suitable subject for a mural? And in in Latin American cultures, what is a suitable subject is politics and equity and social organization. I did a website last year in which I tried to collect images from other countries, murals that is, and it's very clear that in Peru, in Colombia, in Mexico, that murals about the relationship among people predominate, whereas in the Netherlands and in Ireland and in Australia, these are all places I got pictures from, that's not so. They may be history. They think they may elevate certain stories about their history, as in the Netherlands or Montreal, Quebec
Well,
City.
celebrate people, famous people, so
Yeah.
individuals.
I mean, you guys have been around. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Columbia is named after Columbus, right? Which I always thought was kind of ironic. It's like, gee, for such an indigenous, so much indigenous culture, um, to be named after somebody who really is subjected to a lot of dispute about how great a guy he was
Hmm.
and how much good he actually produced in the world or not. Um, so, but it does seem like there's greater connection to um, kind of social beginnings rather than celebrating remarkable individuals who have pulled us along from one stage of life or history to another. So that's an interesting thing that I think common certainly to a lot of the muralists is that celebration of not so much individuals as peoples.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey
Here's
Nick,
a,
I'm noticing that your camera doesn't seem to be on.
let's see. Yeah, it
There you
does.
go.
You're
It,
back.
okay, I am. I
Mhm.
wanted to say this because we're all in the Bay Area. Have any of you seen the mural in San Francisco? I can't name the streets, and I hadn't thought of bringing it up. It's called Baby with a Gun. Does anyone know that mural? Okay, what it is, it's like a 3-year-old or maybe a 4-year-old kid, boy, and he's wearing a kind of a police shirt, and
It's
he's
in the
got what looks.
Tenderloin. It's in the Tenderloin. It's on a huge painting on the side of a building.
That's correct. That's correct. He looks very serious. He doesn't look like he's playing around, and he has a gun in his hand. And he has what looks like a body camera, except it's kind of made of pink and orange plastic. It's a toy. The gun is not a toy. And the idea of a baby with a gun there it is. Thank you. Who found that?
I did.
Thank you, Rodney.
Oh
So
That's
boy.
there,
kind of shocking, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Huh.
Baby policeman with gun and toy camera. So what I want to say, and the reason I'm bringing it up here, is this kind of hyperrealism is not characteristic of South American mural style, but its topic certainly is. Its kind of intense focus on the social reality definitely is expression of a Latin American ethic that I have not seen in most European murals.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's funny. I haven't come across this, and I'm sure I would remember it if I had. I love his little kid body cam. I think it's like it's shocking, and yet there's a humor behind it too.
Yeah, yeah. BIP stands for something. I can't think of what the acronym is, but this person has made really powerful murals with a strong social focus in many cities.
There's another one.
Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. Where is this? This is in
This
San
one is in the Tenderloin,
Mm-hmm.
580 Geary Street.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, this could be a whole other show, right?
Oh, I'd love to
I'd
do a
love to
show on
do that
murals.
actually. Something about the murals. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What's it called? Self-consuming self.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to find the link. How much time do we have, Rodney?
Got another 10 minutes.
I'm going to find a link to a website that I was mentioning earlier, and it's called Mural. Oh, somebody else pick up the conversation for a minute while I look for this.
Yeah, I do have this. There are so many interesting murals in the Bay Area, and not just in San Francisco. I think Oakland has some really amazing ones. And it did occur to
Mhm.
me that it would be really fun to do a show, maybe even a show where we ask people to bring their own and we could take turns sharing them.
Yeah, well, I just found it. I'm going to pull it up, Rodney.
And then Steve, it's worth saying there are some nice El Cerrito murals, and
Yeah,
particularly on the Ohlone Greenway.
we just passed a new one being painted yesterday. Didn't we? So there are more and more.
And then
Yeah,
the Albanians are gonna, there's one in Albany that's gonna be done. I just got an email from Amy Smolens about that.
it's interesting that in Colombia in Latin America, you can see all these murals that celebrate an indigenous beginning. Well, there's kind of an indigenous beginning. Um, so, but whereas it's hard for Americans to celebrate something that they have in common in terms
So,
of
so I do have a
yeah.
comment related to that, Steve. There's a mural in Berkeley, the People's Park mural, and
Mhm.
it was originally conceived as like a history of the whole People's Park and in the riots that followed the creation of it in 1969. But they added to it a few years ago. They added a very, very small Native American scene to it
Mhm. Mhm.
as kind of an afterthought. Yeah, but
Mhm.
where is one that would have something more prominent? I'm sure we
Yeah,
could find something.
yeah. Well,
I have some California murals.
yeah,
Uh,
Our
This
our
is
beginnings are kind of contested, you know? It's like
Yeah.
they're
We
just
haven't we haven't
constantly,
agreed on the narrative, have we?
yeah, we're constantly arguing.
this is
So,
American
Richmond.
exceptionalism.
yeah.
Oh, this is in my neighborhood. This is on not the Alameda, but
It's on
well,
San Pablo, maybe?
Arlington. On the
It's on
Arlington.
Arlington. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
this is on the side of a market, and they're really celebrating natural foods, preservation of the earth. We see wind
Wind
turbines in
turbines.
the sky, butterflies, locally grown food. I think there's a detail coming up here. Protect the earth that feeds us.
Yeah. This
Protect
thing
the
is,
soil.
we can
You
agree
know,
on nature, our love of nature. We just can't agree on the our origins as a species, you know? So,
So this is in Richmond. Oh, do you all
well,
know this mural?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I
this
sure.
is
don't think I
wonderful.
do. Where is that mural?
This is on San Pablo Avenue, just north of McDonald, just past where you get on to I-80 northbound after Barrett, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. You can
And
see a freeway sign on the top of this image there.
Yeah,
yeah,
Right.
Richmond El Cerrito border. And then
that's
it says self. Oh, for self-serve, I guess. But
right. So
then
what he's doing is he's combining, he's imagining, let me go back to the wide shot. This is John Worley. He's imagining the title is Revisionist History of San Pablo Avenue. So he's showing these indigenous people hunting a bear, even in the midst of a gas station, and these rancheros lassoing cattle.
oh yeah, the Californios.
And yeah, this is being restored right now. I got some pictures of the restoration going on.
Is this the website you were talking about, Nick? Your website?
Yeah, yeah. I just put the link in the chat for your art aficionados
Well,
like Rodney.
maybe we'll have to do a show where you will need to be a guest on the show where we talk more about murals
I love it.
in the Bay Area because I do love the topic. I love the idea of art that's not in a museum, art that's in public.
Mm.
Here's kids from Crestmont School. This is a few blocks from my house where my kids went to school years ago. They are reproducing a Frank Stella mural.
Oh yeah?
Here's the original,
Uh-huh.
and here's their version of it on
That's
the
great.
side of the schoolhouse.
And Frank didn't sue, right?
In what?
He didn't sue.
I still didn't understand you.
He didn't like go after them for IP infringement or anything.
That's right. Let's see what else we have. I showed you that one. Okay. So just real quickly, I'll just show you how this is organized. If you go, the link is in the chat. These are all the countries from which I received, and states, Illinois, from which I received submissions. The Netherlands, Oklahoma, Peru has lovely murals, two of them from Peru. Should have.
Would the Peruvian murals have any, would they be at all similar to the Colombian ones, or are they totally different?
Uh, well, what do you think? This is from this person you know, Rodney. This is Lori Sanchez. He was in Peru.
Oh yeah.
This message is, I think, it's a saying. I mean, women have the key to the future. They hold the key
It's
to the
very it's
future.
very political, which is
Yeah.
cool.
This one, uh, women hold the health of the household on their backs. And what do we see in this basket or on the roof? We see books, we see fruit, we see a child with balloons. Recia means strength.
Mhm.
I don't know who this person is. This fits more along what you were saying, Steve. This is an individual, and it's maybe celebrating her achievement or contribution.
Mhm. Mhm.
So go to this website. Oklahoma has pictures of a friend of mine, murals about when the railroads came through his area in the late 19th century or mid 19th century.
Mhm.
So that's it. And on here, you have also a means to send a mural. If you want to send us a mural, you can do that too.
Mhm.
All right, so that's a plan. We will at some point in the future do a mural program. And Nick, can we invite you back for that?
I'd love it, and I'd love it if you promote it in a way that people who have pictures of murals they want to highlight, send them to us so that we can incorporate them into a single PowerPoint.
It'll be interactive. We'll be a community of inquiry.
That's right,
You
a
said
community.
earlier.
Right. This, by the way, this little bit, this is a detail in Oaxaca that was done in the first year after COVID.
Ugh,
And it's a Mayan art style, but it's about infection. These black dots here. He's coughing. It's a beautiful mural, and it combines the present reality of 2021 or 2020. Um, let's see, with a Mayan art style. Here, this is a wide shot.
Mhm.
So I'm going to quit sharing here because I think I'm.
any last thoughts, Nick, you want to share with the audience?
No, I think I like your thought, your question, Rodney, about public art. Let's pay attention to public art because that's the expression of the ethic and the values of a community, much more so than the museums.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but yeah, the museums, those collections emanate from wealthy people who make choices. Sometimes they do a really great job of collecting, but nevertheless, I think we need to understand that connection. And the public art is something that belongs to all of us and is to be cherished for that reason.
And it's also
Mhm.
much more transitory, which is good. It makes it more topical. You know, this year's spate of murals is not going to be the same murals in 10 years.
Mhm.
Which,
They fade, so
Well,
that's they come and go.
yeah, yeah.
well, Nick, thank you very much for being our guest today and a fascinating program about Colombian art. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Um,
I
Thanks
enjoyed it
everyone for
again.
connecting to us. We will be back. I think we're going to be back in 3 weeks to be talking about the SF MoMA Fisher Collection Reimagined.
Mhm.
And I will have some of my fellow art museum guides on for that.
No, this is very enlightening, Rodney.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Paco. You are our most loyal audience member, and we always appreciate that.
Well,
Yeah.
Paco suggests another theme for future programming, and that is the Enlightenment.
Yes,
You know, when scientific ideas started to flourish throughout the world, how did the world change?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what
Ellen,
a
it's good to see you. I haven't seen you
Yeah,
in decades.
a long time.
It has been a long time. Have you retired yet?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I'm down to 1 to 2 days a week. That's, nearly retired.
Yeah. Alan and I worked together for quite a few years. Alan is a gaffer and owns a lighting company, and I was a camera person and producer.
Mhm.
Wow.
So,
All right, folks. Everyone enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you back here again in 3 weeks.
All
okay,
right.
thank you, Rodney.
Thanks.
Thank
Okay.
you all who
Bye.
showed
Thanks,
up.
Rodney.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.